Hello everyone, it's Seth, probably better known as Seth Fred Olive, and today we are counting down the top 10 Budget Magic Modern decks of 2021. So every week on the Budget Magic series, we play a budget deck, $100 or less. This year we played 20 different budget Modern decks, and some are better than others. That's the nature of making a budget deck every week. Some of them end up kind of janky and not super competitive. Other times we end up surprised by just how good the decks actually are. So today we're looking back on the top 10 of the year, counting them down from worst to best. Before we jump into it, a couple of quick reminders. First and most importantly, thank you to all of you for supporting Budget Magic this year. Like, seriously, none of this happens without all of you, and y'all are awesome, and I love y'all, and I appreciate y'all so much. So huge thank you to all of you. Number two, the deck lists are going to show up in the video, but you can't really download them from YouTube video. So if you want the full deck list, follow the link in the description. I'll pin a comment. All the lists are there. Download them, play them on Magic Online, play them in paper, whatever you want to do with them. Also in that article will be links to all the full videos. So if you want to watch a full episode of any of these decks because you missed it earlier, it'll be there as well. Number three, if you need to buy the cards for any of these decks, you can do it from our awesome sponsor Card Kingdom by heading over to cardkingdom.com/MTGGoldfish, and as a bonus, you can even get a free MTG Goldfish sticker. Just let them know you want one in your order notes, and they will hook you up. So without further ado, let's count down the top 10 Budget Magic Modern decks of 2021. Coming in at number 10 on our list, we actually have a tie. We played two very different Affinity Lists on Budget Magic this year. The first one was Mana List, quote-unquote Affinity. Technically had 6 lands in it, but was pretty close to Mana List, with the idea being you just kind of hope you get the right draw that has a bunch of free artifacts and lets you power out things like Mirror Enforcer and Salvage Titan and Barricade Breaker on turn 1, and then you just cross your fingers and pray really hard to the Magic gods that that's going to be enough to win the game. The deck, we ended up 2 and 3 with it, so it's low end as far as how competitive it is. Actually, out of all the decks we're going to talk about today, I would say this is the least competitive. At the same time, it's also the most hilarious when it goes off. On the other hand, our second Affinity List, Real Affinity, built around the actual Affinity mechanic, not just some artifact aggro deck, but we were Mirror Enforcing and Frogmiting and Sojourner's Companioning and Thought Monitoring. That deck worked really well. We ended up going 4-1, and even though I think we ran kind of hot during our recording, I think it is one of the more competitive budget decks that we played in Modern in 2021. Coming in at number 9 on our list, we got a relatively recent deck with Doren Cannot Lie, our Doren the Siege Tower Toughness Matters deck, which combined Doren with some of the new Toughness Matters payoffs from Innistrad Crimson Vow, like Catapult Fodder and Ancient Lumbernaut. In the deck, while it looks kind of funny to see like Giant Ox running around in Modern, it actually felt pretty good. We ended up 3-2 with the deck. So if you like big butts and you cannot lie, Doren is probably the perfect budget Modern deck for you. At number 8 on our list, we have the Wild 8 Squee Infestation deck, which, probably one of the grindiest Modern budget decks we played this year. In this deck, I just love the idea of it. The idea of the deck was to use Squee Goblin Nabob with Master of Death and just repeatedly discard those cards for value with like Zombie Infestation. We could discard it to Bone Shards. And then we also have Faith of the Devoted as a payoff for discarding cards. So if we can get our Squeeze in Master of Death going, we just get so much repeatable value at a really low cost. We're making multiple zombies with Zombie Infestation every turn. We're draining our opponent a bunch with Faith of the Devoted. We ended up 3-2 with the deck, and it can struggle against some fast decks, especially fast combo decks, but in those fairer matchups, the deck can really grind, and it works in a really unique way, which brings it in at number 8 on our list. Coming in at number 7 on our list, we got another new Modern Horizons 2 influence deck, which was Squirrel Twin. So if you missed this one, the idea of this deck is to build our own really janky, really squirrely Splinter Twin using Scurry Oak, which whenever it gets a counter, you get to make a squirrel, and then Ivy League Denizen, which whenever a green creature, like a squirrel, comes into play, puts a counter on something to just make infinite squirrels. Like, if we can assemble those two cards together with the help of Court of Calling or Eldritch Evolution, we just go infinite. We do gotta wait a turn to win because our squirrels don't have haste, so it's not as good as actual Splinter Twin, but for $100, the deck actually won a decent amount of games. We ended up going 3-1. We played some really long games with the deck, but it felt pretty reasonable, and it's got a lot of upgrade potential because we played a mono green build, but if you're willing to go 2 colors, you can start adding like Heliod combos into the mix as well, which can power up the deck even more. At number 6 on our list, we have one of my personal favorite modern budget decks we played this year, which was Karth Fred. So this deck's built around Karth Lion, which is just an insane payoff for Planeswalkers, letting us dig for Planeswalkers, also making all of our Planeswalkers' loyalty abilities cost 1 more loyalty to activate, which lets us ultimate Planeswalkers really quickly. Some of our Planeswalkers as soon as the turn they come into play, and we ended up going 3-in-1 with the deck, and the deck just did absurd things. We were ultimating Garruk Primal Hunter to make tons of worms, and ultimating Nisses to draw tons of cards, and Lilianas to reanimate a bunch of stuff. Like, when the deck goes off, it really goes off. It's another one of those decks that performs better in fair matchups. In fair matchups, whoo, this deck just makes so many tokens to so many cool Planeswalker shenanigans. Against unfair decks, though, things can get a little sketchier because we're a little bit slow to fight fast combo, but still, the deck is an absolute blast to play. Moving into our top 5, we have the Demonic Learning deck, which we played right after Strixhaven release last spring, built around the Learn Lesson package of Strixhaven in Modern of all places to power up one of my pet Modern cards, Demon of Deathgate. Demon of Deathgate, the card is kind of insane. Normally it's a 9-mana 9/9 flying trample, but you can pay 6 life and sack 3 black creatures to play it for free. In our deck, we get a ton of black 1-drops, a Bloodsoaked Champion, Red Wanderer, Eye Twitch, Gutterbones, so we can play Demon on turn 2 pretty consistently. The lesson plan was to use Eye Twitch to get things like Pest Summonings to make a bunch of tokens to sacrifice to our Demon, and then as a backup we had Exis, or actually Awaken the Blood Avatar, as another big sacrifice playoff, and the deck worked kind of surprisingly well. We ended up going 4-in-1. It turns out that slamming 9/9 flying tramples on turn 2, pretty powerful, even in Modern, even in 2021. Coming in at number 4 on our list, we actually have our most recent budget Magic episode, our last Modern budget deck of 2021, Doren's Monument, which combined an old favorite in Oketra's Monument with Doren's Fist of the Angels, and the two cards kind of want the same thing. They just want you to play a bunch of creatures, so you play your Doren's, you play your Oketra's Monument, you start playing White Mane Lion and bouncing it back to your hand, or Squadron Hawks, and you just flood the board with tokens really quickly and overwhelm your opponent. And it seems like making a bunch of random 1/1 tokens pretty good in a world where everyone's trying to beat down with Ragavan and these cheap small creatures. So we ended up cruising to a 4-in-1 finish with the deck, and it felt really solid overall. At number 3 on our list, we got a deck that combines one of my new favorite cards from 2021 with one of my old favorite archetypes. That is Witherbloom Plum Aristocrat. So on one hand, we're an Aristocrats deck. We're trying to sacrifice things like Blisterpod and Tonkatonk Thallid for value, maybe with Blood Artist or Zulaport Cutthroat or Dina's Soul Steeper out. On the other hand, we got this absurd new sack outlet in Plum the Forbidden, which not only lets us sacrifice our entire board for 2 mana, but also draws us a ton of cards. So it's a great way to refuel, to find more finishers, to find more sacrifice fodder to close out the game. The deck ended up going 4-in-1 and did some spectacular things along the way. Coming in at number 2 on our list, we have perhaps the most notorious budget archetype of all time, which is 8 Whack Goblins, which in 2021 is now 12 Whack Goblins, thanks to the huge addition of Battle Cry Goblin, joining Reckless Bushwhacker and Goblin Bushwhacker to give us just a ton of ways to pump and haste up our team. So the idea of the deck, if you've never seen it, you just play a bunch of cheap goblins, play the whack effects to haste them in, smash your opponent for as much damage as possible, and if you can't get there with creature beats, you got Goblin Grenade, which is just an absurd bird spell, 5 damage for 1 mana to finish things off. We ended up going 4-in-1 with our 12-Whack Goblin deck, and really, this is probably the deck I feel most confident with because we have been playing variants on 12-Whack and 8-Whack for years, and it seems like every time we play it, we end up having a good record. Like, it's just a really strong budget deck. So if you wanted to build a single budget deck from 2021 that is most likely to remain competitive, you know, at a GP, at an FNM for a long amount of time, I would definitely push you towards building 12 Whack Goblins. The deck is kind of insane for a budget deck, and it might be the budget deck most likely to give you like a 5-0 finish in a Modern League on Magic Online or whatever. So you're probably wondering, if 12 Whack Goblins is so good, why is it only number 2 on the list? And the answer is, our good friend Siege Rhino comes in at number 1 with Abzan Rights being the best modern budget Magic deck from 2021. So Abzan Rights, actually a rebuild of a really old budget deck that we played years ago with a bunch of new Modern Horizons 2 cards. The game plan of the deck, it's to be a fair mid-range deck with Siege Rhinos and good removal. It also has this ridiculous nut draw where, thanks to some new Modern Horizons 2 stuff like Persist and Unmarked Grave, we can be reanimating a Archon of Cruelty or an Ashen Rider as early as turn 2 and just getting a free win that way. And the combination of being able to win like a pretty strong fair mid-range deck, but also just, oops, I got to turn 2 Archon, sorry, I beat ya, that makes for a really strong deck. Abzan Right's the only modern budget deck from 2021. They got the perfect 5-0 finish, and we even beat some of the best decks in Modern along the way. So while I'm not sure long-term Abzan Right's is better than 12-Ec Goblins, like 12-Ec is just always good. It is almost never not competitive. For a $100 deck, you really can't ask for more than that. At least for 2021, Siege Rhino ruled the day, and Abzan Right's was the best modern budget deck we played this year. Anyway, that brings us to the end of our top 10 modern budget Magic decks of 2021. So let me know what you think. Which was your favorite? What did I get right? What did I get wrong? Did your favorite modern budget deck from the year not make the list? Let me know in the comments. Again, if you want the deck list, if you want to see the full episodes, follow that link in the description, in the comments. And one more time, thanks to all of you for making an awesome 2021. So have a wonderful day, everyone. Thanks so much for watching, and I will talk to you soon.
Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, help us out by clicking that like button down below. And to keep up on all the latest and greatest, click that subscribe button. And don't forget to hit that bell icon to get alerts whenever we have new videos. And if you want to, check out some of our other sweet videos here and here.